Hello, everyone. We are back with another show, and we have Karen in the
we do.
house.
Hello, hello.
Anything that I say is not meant to diagnose or replace your medical care. Check with your doctor before taking any of the advice, but definitely get out your pens and pencil and paper. We're going to go through a lot of stuff today, and you'll get a lot from just the questions that people ask, and then also the quizzes that I'm going to be talking about. You know, I did a video recently, Karen, on how to convince people, or actually what the worst way to convince people of keto. Because, you know, people are always talking to their friends and family, like, how do you get them on board with keto?
Mm-hmm.
And it really has to do with, well, in fact, I don't think I've met one person who ever jumped in and started keto without having some problem, health problem, or perceived problem. You know, you have people that you see that need it, but they don't perceive that they really need it because they're healthy. You know, like people that have like these huge bellies, like, well, I'm fine. You know, or my medication is, my diabetes is being controlled by medication, so therefore I'm healthy and I don't need keto.
Right.
Or I don't have a weight problem. You ever hear that? So I don't need to do keto.
I might have heard it once or twice.
So I'm going to do a video on that, the worst way to convince someone of keto, and then what you should do if you wanted to convince them. Stay tuned for that video.
All right.
So we're going to jump right into Belle from Canada, Saskatchewan. Are you there, Belle?
I'm here. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
Dr. Berg, I am doing healthy keto, and I'm intermittent fasting. I enjoy that, and I've done prolonged fasting. It's been good, and I'm going to be doing a water fast coming up. But my question is, I watched your clip on the high pulse rate, rapid pulse rate the other day, and I have a pounding heart rate in the middle of the night. I wake up at 2 or 3 every single morning, and my blood pressure goes up, and my heart is just pounding. And if I move around, it's really pounding hard. And my potassium is normal, and my glucose and sodium and magnesium are all in the normal range.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering, could this be related to dehydration, or a large fibroid, which I have, or a thyroid condition? This situation.
Sure could be related to the thyroid, but I have a question for you. Are you doing any type of kombucha tea or apple cider vinegar?
Yes, I do apple cider vinegar. The kombucha tea has too much sugar for me. My glucose is negative, and I don't take any sugar in at all, so I'm really careful.
Okay, good. And then the question I have for you is, when you say your potassium is normal, is that based like on a blood test?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want me to?
So I'm just going to give you some data on this. First of all, I think your potassium might be fine, but it'll never show up on your blood test simply because like 98, maybe 99% of your potassium is inside the cell, not in the blood, outside the cell. So it's not interstitial, it's actually inside the cell. So you cannot really pick up a lot of potassium problems by checking the blood. You could do an intracellular test. I don't have the website handy, but I could probably post it down here later. But intracellular test will measure the intracellular minerals like magnesium and potassium. So that's one thing. Number two, one thing that can cause a high pulse rate is your pH being slightly acidic. So what you should do is probably cut out the apple cider vinegar and see if that doesn't bring the pulse rate down. That's one thing. The other thing is the thyroid, especially if you're taking thyroid medication, that can raise the pulse rate. Another thing that can do this is that around your bed, either at the head or somewhere, there could be higher levels of what's called EMF, electromagnetic fields. I had this little device, it's called a tri-field, and I measured at the head of my bed, to the left, to the right, massive off-the-chart EMF coming from the wall. So there's certain electrical wires and plugins that I had to deal with. I did create a video on that. I should probably create one that's easy to find. But when I removed and fixed that problem, like everything, like I did notice some weird stuff going on with my heart too, just calmed right down, bam. So that can actually raise the pulse rate or create palpitations. So that's just another thing. The other electrolyte that you could probably also try is calcium. Not a lot, just a little bit. And calcium lactate or calcium citrate might be a good thing for the pulse rate. But these are just things that I would change, and then see if it doesn't help you, and then actually call back next week. The other thing is that you should probably go on long walks every day too, because it really helps the heart to calm down with the pulse rate. Thanks, Belle. All right, Karen, where are people watching from?
Wow, I am tracking that today. I'm glad you asked. Quick list: Canada, Egypt, Mount Everest. You get a cell signal on Mount Everest.
Wow, that's amazing.
Texas, Washington, St. Louis, all over the United States, Jersey, Cyprus, India, Vegas, Connecticut, Pakistan, Scotland, Malaysia, the UAE, Spain, Israel, Bangladesh, London, Greece, South Africa, and I'm sure now there'll be a lot more coming.
Wow, that's great. That's
It's amazing.
awesome.
Yeah. Very, very cool. But would you like a question?
Yes, I would.
Good. So Serene on YouTube asks, what does it mean to have a high DHEA level? What does that mean?
Well, that is a hormone from the adrenals that's like a precursor for other hormones. And I did a video on that. And so the S gives you a little more data on where that hormone is produced. I mean, I don't want to do a whole lecture on it, but it just tells you where specifically it's produced, because it could be coming from the adrenal or it could be coming from other places. But it is a good thing to identify what's happening as your kind of like the precursor hormones for other hormones. So it's usually will show up if it's low. That might show up a problem like after postmenopausal, but if it's high, that can be a whole number of things. I would just watch my video on that, because I just search it out, because that way I can you can get all the data, because it's a little bit complex if I don't have a board to draw pictures. All right, do you have another question? Like a yes or no question?
But you're the king
Jeez.
of drawing pictures on a big board.
Oh gosh.
Okay, good. So Michelle on YouTube, she says she's doing some kale shakes. What's better, frozen or fresh, or does it matter?
Well, I think frozen is better, because if you take like raw kale and you try to blend it, it's a little more difficult. But if you freeze it and you blend it, boy, it comes in a nice crisp shake. It's cold. You add some berries in there. It works good.
I find also when you freeze it, if you put it in a Ziploc first, not just in the bag you brought home from the grocery store, because it will be a mess. Oh, there's a hand. That as soon as it freezes, you can just crunch it, and it goes from taking up this much room in your freezer to just this much room in your freezer, and then it shatters. And then it's really easy to use, and I think you'll end up using even more of it, which is what you're trying to do.
That's what you're trying to do in theory.
What you're trying to do.
Yeah, give me another question.
Okay. So here, I love this one. Which bread is worse, sourdough or sprouted bread?
You know, you would think the sourdough, you'd think the sprouted would be like really healthy. It's actually not that much healthier. I mean, it has a couple more vitamins and minerals, and maybe some less anti-nutrients like phytic acid, but in generally it's very, very similar. Mm-hmm. But on the glycemic index, you have some interesting confusions, because apparently if it's whole grain bread, it's actually lower on the glycemic index, right? But first of all, who just eats a slice of bread? They put stuff on it, and they have larger amount. The glycemic index is a measurement of how the ability of a carbohydrate to raise your blood sugar. So, and if you have, and it's based on kind of 50 grams, which is a smaller quantity. So if you eat what normally people eat, it's going to be a lot higher on the glycemic index. And they don't also talk about the insulin index and other things as well. So I would stay away from spreader bread if I were you, Karen. That's the theme.
Oh, so you would prefer the sourdough?
No.
Is that the answer to the question?
I would prefer it because I like sourdough, but
It's good,
I would
right?
not recommend it.
Right.
If you're trying to be
this
healthy.
question was somebody who was asking because on their cheat day they want to blah blah, which is a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
So if you're doing healthy keto and you're going to cheat, you're on your own.
Now,
Recover from there. but-
Sourdough pretzels are different. No, we don't recommend that. Let's go to Sultan from Saudi Arabia. You had a question. Go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Berg. Thank you very much for taking my call. I would like to ask about what is the ideal daily dosages of butter, ghee, and omega-3s.
Yeah, ghee is clarified butter, so they're taking out the solids from it, so it's like a pure fat, and you can cook with it. You can put it on your food. It has vitamin K2, it has vitamin A, maybe a little bit of vitamin D. It's good for overall health. But as far as a daily dosage, I think you could overdo it, but I mean maybe a couple tablespoons a day would be fine. But see how you feel, because if you start to take too much fat that's out of the normal complex, like even like butter, where do they get butter from? Milk, right? It's kind of a refined product. You're taking it out of the complex. What happens is that you can be deficient in certain things, like vitamin B1. There's not a lot of vitamin B1 in fats, like pure fats. So when you consume a lot of it, your body still has to metabolize that fat, and it's going to use up some reserve of B1. So you can actually have a B1 deficiency mostly from doing a high carbohydrate diet as well as doing a high fat diet if you're just doing a lot of refined fats. I'm not against doing a lot of fats, but just make sure you have enough B1, because you may end up with kind of the symptoms of a B1 deficiency. Just like the lady who called with the high pulse rate. One reason for a high pulse rate would be low vitamin B1, and I didn't mention this to her until I just thought of it now. So B1 is like a real key nutrient for so many things. Okay, thanks for your question. And Karen, it's time for the first quiz for everyone.
Okay.
Okay? All right. What is the first symptom of a fatty liver? How do you know you may have a fatty liver? Okay, let's see if you guys have this answer. And while you're chewing on that answer, Karen, let's give me a question.
Take a question. Okay. No name here. Would like to use just a teaspoon of honey in their tea. What are your thoughts on that?
My thought is don't do it, because a little teaspoon of sugar, and by the way, honey has just as much sugar as other sweeteners, is going to raise your sugar just enough for your insulin to come in there and push it down. So guess what happens? You're going to be about an hour and a half, you're going to be like, I need a little something, a little sweetness, you know? Now you're craving. Now it bumped you out of ketosis.
I mean, I love the taste of honey, but I haven't had honey in a long time, and I would maybe a month or so, a couple of months ago, I ended up drinking something that had honey in it, and honestly, within an hour, I felt groggy, like I needed to nap. It really, just a little bit,
Was it with those
really
fish tacos?
affected me.
Was it fish tacos?
No.
Okay.
Wasn't
Because
fish tacos.
when I ate the fish tacos the other night, I was like, wait a second, there's something a little too sweet in here. And then, of course, an hour later, I'm like, there was something a little too sweet
that
in there.
hidden ingredient.
Yep.
No, it was not. I didn't notice
Okay.
that.
This is the danger of eating out or ordering food out. They slip that sugar in there so easily, and also they put a lot of the oils that you don't want in there. They cook with different, like soy
It's
or
tough.
corn oil. Okay, so let me know if we're getting some answers to this
We
question.
are starting to get answers here. Lots of different answers.
What are some of the answers?
So some of the answers are fat around the stomach, dry mouth, dark urine, fatty stool, right shoulder pain, hair loss, gallbladder issues, large tummy,
Well, you know what?
bloating.
All you guys are really close. And those of you that said right shoulder pain, that would be the second symptom. But the first symptom is malaise.
And what is that?
Malaise is not fatigue. It's a general feeling of uneasiness. You don't feel well. It's kind of non-specific. You could feel like you're coming down with something. You can't put a finger on it. You just don't feel really good. It's the absence of feeling good. And the reason for that is because the immune system is starting to kick in. We're starting to get an immune reaction in the body because the liver, if it's a fatty liver, it creates these cytokines, which are inflammatory things that start coming in there. So that little immune reaction is going to make you feel like, I don't feel quite right. Now, it's usually associated with fatigue as well.
But how many people have that?
But
and then they wonder what's wrong with me and end up on some kind of drug or some kind of pill.
Here's the thing. There are other reasons for that symptom too. It's not just the fatty liver. So don't think you have a fatty liver. So it could be you're coming down with flu. It could be you have a lot of other issues. It could be low blood sugar. It could be high blood sugar. There's a lot of different things. It could be a food allergy. But fatty liver will usually cause malaise.
And it's just good to know
not
that
mayonnaise, to distinguish between mayonnaise and malaise.
Okay, but it's good to know that feeling of uneasiness or not so happy, or maybe you feel what you might call blue or uninterested or whatever, when you have these sort of attitude type of symptoms, that you should look at your health and what you're eating as the very first action.
The solution is basically you need to get on keto. I mean, that ultimately will make you feel good. I mean, I know a lot of you watching are on keto right now and doing intermittent fasting, and you don't have that. You feel wonderful. Your mood, your energy. So that is another reason, Karen, to do keto for those of you that are new. And
to share this, because if you have friends or associates or family members that are cranky or blue or not motivated or having issues in life in general, the very first thing you could do is get them onto keto, or at the very least get them off sugar and carbs and get them aware of the fact that that's going to change their attitude and their viewpoint. And
you know why I'm so pushy getting people into keto?
You
know why
are
I've been really pushy?
Why?
Because you remember when I was in my 20s, like about 5 years ago, I was extremely fatigued, and I had malaise. I had a lot of other issues.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a lot of problems. And here I am feeling like crap, trying to get help. And you saw what I was eating. I was eating like, for breakfast it would be like a muffin. I would have carbs. And I didn't make the connection. I was oblivious. And this went on for years. And the solution was right underneath my nose.
Even when
my
we were
mouth.
vegetarians.
Oh my gosh. Don't remind me, Karen, okay? All right, let's go to Tim from Oregon. Are you there, Tim?
I am. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let's see. So I have a family, just a little context here. So my wife and I have 8 children. We're going to talk about my oldest child. So our family has listened to you for years. You guided our family's dietary health regime quite a bit. But my oldest daughter, and the rest of the kids are very healthy runners, athletic. My oldest daughter, however, she is the most dedicated to keto. She hasn't had sugar or grain in years. And she is overweight. She has circulation issues you can see in her hands and her feet. She exercises every day. She observes keto, intermittent fasting. And I've noticed a little bit of cracking in her heels, which I've heard you reference before. Also, just so that you've got full context, and I know we're not supposed to talk about this, but she's the only one of our children who was vaccinated. And then also, I'm not sure how regular her menstrual cycle is, but nobody wants their dad to know that anyway. So
Right.
But there you go.
What's going on.
There's the background.
So when you say circulation problems, I think you said in the hands and the feet, are you talking about like Raynaud's where it turns purple, or just cold, or Why do you say circulation issues?
Yeah, I say cold. She'll reference them as cold, but also definitely purple. Definitely, I see coloration.
Okay. All right, so this is what I would recommend. I did a video on this. I would recommend she may need higher amounts of vitamin B1, which actually helps the autonomic nervous system, and that's great for Raynaud's. You might want to try that, as well as vitamin D. Both of those together, I think, will help in the thermoregulation, regulation of temperature. As well as maybe counter some of the effects of some of the things that she did in the past. Also, reevaluate, go back to, I mean, anytime that someone has those symptoms, I would always want to get a food log, look at that food for the last 2 days, and then compare it to my book, like what is missing, what can she do. That's what I would do. That's what I would do, Tim. Let me know if that helps, okay? So, and I would recommend higher amounts of the vitamin B1 and vitamin D for a little bit and see if she doesn't feel a lot better or if she does better. Thanks, Tim. All right. Karen?
Yes.
Do we have another question?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, so Frederick from YouTube, he's been on keto and lost a bunch of weight
Mm-hmm.
and now has trouble sleeping.
Okay. So here's what I would do. Here's the problem with keto. You start having too much energy. Now, what are you going to do with all this extra energy? And believe it or not, you do need a little less sleep, but you definitely need sufficient sleep. So one of the things that you want to make sure you're doing is make sure the electrolytes are in, add the electrolytes, especially potassium, magnesium, to make sure your sleeping is good. You can also add a little calcium in there, but I wouldn't do that right off the bat. I would first do more electrolytes for the potassium and magnesium. That usually should help. The other problem with sleep and ketones is that ketones are acidic. So, and having more of an acidic thing can raise the heart rate and kind of keep things going. So again, before bed, if you were to consume, maybe I would do this like as your last meal instead, not before bed. Celery. Do a lot of celery, maybe peanut butter as your, and you can do that maybe a few nights in a row and see if that doesn't help your sleep, because the celery has a certain phytonutrient in there that is calming to the blood pressure, calming to the nervous system, and will help you sleep. Lately I've been on a celery kick. I think you have too, Karen. So, all right, so that would be that, and then I'm going to give the next question.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is a yes or no question. Should you be taking a probiotic if you're on antibiotics
Good question.
at the same time? Or should you wait? Well, no, it's just one question. Should you have
Don't
it when
confuse
you,
us.
yeah, just, you get an antibiotic, should you be taking a probiotic? That's the question.
There you go.
Now,
I want to add that.
go ahead, add.
Yeah, countries people are viewing us from. I already mentioned about 20, and now we've added Lebanon, Jordan, Indonesia, Iraq, Poland, Hungary, Ethiopia, Australia, Tunisia, and strangely enough, we have viewers from planet Earth. And I would like to welcome
Is
them.
that what they said?
Yeah.
We can come together on certain issues.
Certain things like keto and intermittent fasting, and generally feeling good. We can all agree on that.
Hey, Jean, you're on the air. You're from Arizona. Go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Berg. Thank you for taking my call. Just by way of summary, I'm 56. I started keto and fasting March 1st, ironically, for the pandemic, and I lost 50 pounds in 5.5 months.
Wow.
Yeah, and went to, so it can be done in your 50s. I then went to Alaska and Florida and, kind of ate some other foods, felt way different, as you've talked about, and then have lost 10 pounds the last 6 weeks. Finally, yesterday hit 60 pounds. Wow. So I guess my question is, I'm now at kind of average weight, but I want to dip below. I want to go another 20 or so. How do I sustain motivation over the holidays, and especially for the last phase of the reducing part, until I decide I want to stop.
Yeah.
And what would you say about that?
Well, you're already seeing the benefits, and you're excited about the weight loss itself, right? That's making you happy.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds like you're excited. I think the best thing to do is you have to find the keto program as part of like your lifestyle. Like you can't look at it like a diet. It's like just part of my lifestyle. You groove in. You find out your niche of how to do this. Maybe you have your keto snacks, whatever on the side that you have with the meal as desserts, but you have to make it enjoyable. Now, holidays is a different story. If you can control that a little bit better, you can make these other foods, or let's say you're like a lot of other people who go off the program during the holiday, maybe just that one day, but get right back on it. So I think you're getting to a point now where I think you're getting it to now where you have a good health reserve that you can afford to go off of it for a day and to get right back on it. But the problem is that what I don't recommend is like go from Thanksgiving all the way, bam, to first of the year, and you're off the program.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah, and it just keeps going. So it's just about making this just a lifestyle thing. I mean, I actually even recommend sometimes go off the program and see how you feel so you can convince yourself it's not the way that I want to go. So that way no one has to tell you. You have judgment. So you're not like on this program. You're just like, hey, I know what my body responds to eating wise. It does better with this. I'm going to stick to that. I will say probably one weakness is other people around you, friends and family that are not on the program, and they could influence you. I know it's hard to believe, but
You looking at me?
I was looking over there. So
You know what?
You maybe want to be like me, like the odd man out, and just go in the corner and just
But you know what? It
What?
goes the other way too. Because I can tell you, our entire community, our friends and family have all either leaned keto or have gone keto
At
or
least once or twice.
try to be on keto. And when we have when we have had company, or if there was a holiday or something and someone has come over to our house, everybody knows. I mean, our friends don't bring sugar things. They'll bring everything is keto. I mean,
That's true, but we were going to try this. It didn't work out, but next year we will try it. Like for Thanksgiving, we just basically serve people the first thing. They all get their salads. They don't get any
yeah.
food until they finish their salad, and then we serve them the next course, that type of thing.
but and that's great because you want that raw food. But even our Thanksgiving was 100% keto. I mean, everything about it was keto. So, it goes the other way too. You can become the influenced. You can become the, you don't want to be that
trendsetter.
that droopy king or queen of deprivation. Like,
Why are you looking at me?
I'm in it for the cause.
Why are you
I'm
looking at
going to
me?
not eat that. Like make something awesome, chocolate mousse or something that's really great in keto, and turn other people on.
Well,
And I was going to say, if you go to the Berg's house, you're not missing a thing because, your guys' style of cooking, the cauliflower casserole and the stuff. I mean, I'm just moaning. Bacon, cheese, come on. What's to miss?
well, now that you're talking
Biscuits.
about that, could you please just make that lasagna you made a while ago again?
Every 3 weeks on this show.
Because I really have
you
been waiting
ask
for
me.
that. Okay, so question. What do we have for the answer to the question?
I would say that it was tight, but the yeses have it. The
Okay.
majority say yes.
Yeah, the
And you wanna
answer is,
repeat the
should you take a
question?
probiotic
Oh, yeah.
when you're on an antibiotic? Absolutely yes. Why wouldn't you want to take it? I mean, think about it. When you're on an antibiotic, what's trying to kill off the bad infection, right? Well, it's also killing off the good guys. You're taking a probiotic. You're not taking pathogens. You're not taking microbes that are unfriendly. So put it back, because that will minimize the damage control as soon as possible. And yes, there's some research on this that it will decrease the complications, including like you'll have less diarrhea, you'll have less issues. But yeah, get in that probiotic right away, and it won't counter the antibiotic in any way. It won't minimize.
Okay, that was the question. I was
Yeah.
going to say clarify, because There has been a myth that if you take probiotic with an antibiotic, it decreases the effectiveness.
No, not
of
at
the
all.
antibiotic.
No, because
Well,
it's
okay.
like taking a good bacteria is not going to stop you killing bad bacteria. In fact, it's going to help you kill the bad bacteria. So
Boy, you're really passionate about that.
it's gonna, Karen. Okay, so
All
let's go to
right.
Tasha from Los Angeles, California. Are you there, Tasha?
Hi, Dr. Berg. How are
Hi.
you?
Great, thank you.
Great. My question is, I've been watching your videos, and I came across one on reactive hypoglycemia. And you talked about how if you're in an episode and your glucose levels are, right around in the 70s, maybe like 72, 75, that you didn't want to necessarily grab for a bunch of sugar because that can kind of keep that cycle going. So I wanted to ask you, what do you recommend someone with reactive hypoglycemia, what should they grab instead of reaching for that sugar?
Good question. I have a question for you first. Do you have reactive hypoglycemia?
I do. I don't have diabetes, but I find that I do have reactive hypoglycemia to some foods.
Okay. Have you found that, I'm assuming you're on keto, have you found that...
Starting.
Okay. Have you found that when your blood sugar goes that low on keto, that you feel bad, or do you have any symptoms that are negative?
The only thing I get is a little bit of dizziness, which kind of cues me into that my blood sugar would be low.
Okay. All right, so here's the data on this. When you do a low-carb diet, keto, intermittent fasting, your blood sugars are going to start going lower and lower and lower and lower and even look like it's hypoglycemia, but it's really not because you're not eating sugar anymore. So the only sugar that's coming in there is your body's making it from fat, non-carbohydrate sources. So you're going to find that you'll check your blood sugars. It'll go down to 60, sometimes even down to like 58 in some people, even 55. I had someone, and you feel perfectly fine because you're burning your body on fat. So that's interesting because you would think you need to quickly get it up there, but not when you do keto for a long period of time. It might take a while to do that. But let's say, for example, you're just starting keto and you haven't adapted, you haven't fat adapted yet, and your blood sugars tend to be low. Do not go for the carbohydrate, go for the protein. The protein will help you because the protein, some of it's going to turn into glucose. So it's going to be much better than the carbs, and add a little fat in there as well. That's how you do it. But you'll see quickly when you're on keto, this reactive hypoglycemia is going to diminish and go away because it is the solution to handling that. Periodic snacking is going to keep it there and make it worse. Thanks for your call. All right, what do we have for an answer, Karen?
What's the question?
The question is, oh, I didn't ask a question.
I didn't think you did.
Okay, let me ask you a question. I'm on this robotic automaticity here. Okay.
Where is the sugar?
Where is, okay, when we're talking about fructose, the sugar fructose, which is in a lot of different foods, where is that on the glycemic index? Is it low, is it medium, or is it high on the glycemic index? Okay?
Low,
What do you-
medium, or high?
What do you
These are
guys
your
think?
answers. Okay, good.
What do you guys think about that?
Somebody asked what we had for Thanksgiving. Should we share that?
Well,
Yeah.
we had the, you want to run down the
I
list?
know. Well,
Yeah.
we had for Thanksgiving, of course, we had a big salad.
Mhm.
We had turkey, salmon, and tenderloin. We always do a couple different. We had Brussels sprouts, crispy Brussels sprouts. We had mashed cauliflower. We had buttered zucchini. We had acorn squash with cinnamon. We had biscuits. We had sauteed mushrooms.
Biscuits were made keto friendly.
Of course, everything
Yeah.
was keto.
Yeah.
We start with meats and cheeses and olives. We ended with cheesecake, plain, pumpkin, chocolate cream pie.
It was great. It was great. And
I
also,
probably
did you
missed
say the
something.
salmon?
Salmon, poached, incredible. Citrus
the salmon.
salmon.
I'm telling you,
Really easy.
I am very, very spoiled and picky on salmon. I don't like just any salmon. It has to be good or I won't eat it. But
So
that was some good
suffering
salmon.
index at the Bergs is 0 on
No
Thanksgiving.
suffering. Everybody leaves happy. And you know what's really, really nice is after a meal like that, people don't go through this, even though any food will increase the insulin, right? Even that meal, because everything you eat produces some insulin in your system. But we didn't have, you know, the person who fell asleep on the couch,
No.
people who nod off or whatever. We were up and playing music until late.
You know, since you're talking about that, Karen,
Yeah.
there's an insulin index, and these are all the foods that raise in blood sugar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything is like, it's very confusing for people because they might just go off this one insulin index and say, hey, it's this or that, so then I'm good, but you never ever just eat one food. So if you're combining a couple foods on an insulin index, we have to realize, especially if you're combining glucose or sugar with a protein or a fat, you're going to spike what's called glycation process in the body, where all your proteins are getting really sticky and creating all sorts of issues. So stay tuned for a video on that, because I think it's an important one, looking at the big picture, so you can really understand how to combine your foods without killing yourself. Okay, what do we have?
I just want to say, Nina says she had lots of steamed leeks and asparagus. I do my leeks on the grill, but we also had leeks and asparagus. Nina and I are like this. Okay, good. So most people are saying high or very high. One was medium to high, but your guys know the deal on fructose.
Yeah. Okay, so believe it or not, this might shock you, but fructose is 19. It's low. Now, before you freak out, Steve.
Hold on. Wait. That was my
Before you freak out, Steve.
That was my freak out.
Like fructose, well, does that mean we can actually have fructose? Fructose, so you have fructose, and then you on the top 100, which is high, one of the highest. I mean, there's actually goes higher. That's glucose. Now, sucrose is a combination of glucose and fructose. So
It's a lot of doses.
that's like 60, I think it's 64 or something like that. Now, here's the thing. When you consume fructose, it's worse than something higher on the glycemic index called glucose, because only your liver can metabolize glucose. So other sugars like glucose have their receptors all through the entire body, but fructose, it's only the liver. So you're basically creating a shock. Consuming fructose is similar to consuming alcohol for the liver. It creates a whiplash, it creates insulin resistance, it can eventually create diabetes. And yes, I'm talking about high fructose corn syrup, which, by the way, is half of it's fructose, the other half is glucose. So
So the people who are saying it's high, I bet you they just know that fructose is bad.
it's bad, but it's low in the glycemic index. Just another reason why you can be tricked, and especially if you see advertisement for a lot of these diets out there, like, hey, you can eat this because it's low in the glycemic index. Well, it might be low, but it doesn't mean it's healthier. Stay tuned for a video on the glycemic index, and the name of it's going to be My Beef about the insulin index.
And my mind is blown.
Sorry, Steve.
Wow, that's new news for Steve. I think, good.
Okay.
Okay, Karen, please share the lasagna recipe. I did share it. It is on our recipe site. He just wants me to make it again every day.
Where can you find it? YouTube, channels, recipe.
And drberg.com, right? It should be on drberg.com.
It should be on there. Maybe we'll double check it. And maybe we'll put a link down here when we get back.
Okay.
Okay. Jess Pree from Edmonton, Alberta. Are you there?
Hi, hello. Yes,
Hello.
doctor, I'm here.
Great.
I just wanted to share my story with you, and I have a question after. So I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism in 2016, October, and I've been, at the same time I had high liver enzymes, and it was non-Hashimoto's. And then since then, I had 2 pregnancies and healthy children. Thyroid was up and down, and until 20 October 2020, my doctor diagnosed me with the metabolic syndrome. And on the same day, I started searching about the keto diet and intermittent fasting. And since then, I have. Since then, it's been 6 weeks, and my insulin resistance is gone back to normal. It was 152, and now it's just 45. The normal is 35 to 140. And then my fasting blood sugar went from 5.2 to 3.8. And my liver enzyme went from 80 to 38, all thanks to you and your guidance. So I lost 34 pounds until now.
Wow.
So it has been very great. I feel great in the last 6 or 8 weeks, I guess. And my question is, now that my thyroid, I was taking Synthroid 88, and my TSH was 1.59 as a Canadian unit, and then now it's gone to 0.26. So does that mean that my thyroid is working and it's getting better?
Well, here's the thing. With the thyroid, you may have some adjustments because you're now running on your fat fuel and no longer running on carbs, which is basically a more efficient engine. So I think your thyroid is just becoming more efficient and the values are changing, and this is based on all the other improvements. So obviously you're doing fantastic. One thing I will say though, I think you said you don't have Hashimoto's. That's an autoimmune condition, which is good. But the two primary things that mess up the thyroid are, number one, high levels of estrogen from a pregnancy, as well as the liver issue, because they have to be converted to the liver. So I think that as you going forward and you improve your diet and you're going to get better conversion of the thyroid hormones through your liver, and you're going to have better levels of estrogen. So you probably would benefit from maybe some attention and focus on improving your liver. Just keep working at your liver. It takes like 3.5 years to really get that thing working a lot better, but I would focus on your liver because I think that's going to help your thyroid more than anything. Thanks for your call. That's great success. All right. What you looking at, Karen?
James Ronan says, I have dead air but still connected. Do I hang up or stay on hold? So guys, did we lose James?
Well, I'm not sure that we had him, James.
Okay,
James, we urge
you should
to call
hang up
back in.
and call
Yeah.
back.
Okay.
We're sorry, James.
Next question.
Okay.
What nutrient deficiency commonly will trigger heat intolerance? What is the top nutrient deficiency for heat intolerance? So you don't tolerate heat. You go in warmer weathers and you're like, either you sweat easily or you just don't feel, you feel weak, you feel uncomfortable. You don't tolerate warm weather.
Good question.
And someone asked a question, so I did a video on it. Didn't release it yet because I was talking about cold intolerance. But we got to talk about heat intolerance.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll talk about stress intolerance later. But do you have a good question?
Yeah, Bruce is on YouTube and he wants to know, he's into fasting. He does like a 20-hour fast.
Awesome.
But he's not on keto.
Not awesome.
So is that bad? What are your thoughts?
It's very bad. Well, let me just tell you my opinion on it. Is Bruce?
Bruce.
What you're doing, the benefits you're getting from fasting are reduction of insulin. And so that's really going to help you. You're going to have all of these great benefits. But if your carbs are higher, you kind of just kill a lot of those results. If you were to add low carb, what's going to happen, you're going to make those results from fasting a lot better. Now, I know some people have this viewpoint, hey, I want to eat what I want, so I'll just do fasting. That's fine. It's better than not fasting, but it could be improved. Now, this relates to the next point I was going to bring up about convincing people about keto. They don't, like Bruce might say, well, I don't have any problems, so I'm going to do it. I'm not overweight, or I don't have an issue. That's fine, but it's not just for people that have problems. It's for people that want to keep their problems gone. But again, Bruce, I understand you. It's up to you. You know, cross that bridge when you get there. But there's a lot of people who start keto when sometimes it's even too late. You know, they might end up with cancer. Like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have worked on my body. The rates of getting certain diseases, especially cancer, are very, you know, the odds are against you. And so one day when you all of a sudden have it, you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have started doing something to prevent this thing. So you do want to put attention on prevention actively, because sooner or later, you know, our bodies do break down. That's all I'm saying, Bruce. So you make up your mind.
Prevention, attention.
Prevention, attention.
That's right. All right, what do we have as an answer here?
B1, D3, B1, 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 D, B1, D.
Boy, you guys are pretty sharp. You guys are pretty smart, because I didn't even release this video yet. But I did talk about Raynaud's, which is like you have your fingertips blue and things like that, and that's a B1 deficiency, so that's probably why you got it correct, because you saw the video. But there's other conditions, like there's a condition called POTS, P-O-T-S, where you stand up and you kind of get dizzy. There's other conditions that affect the autonomic nervous system. Each one of these conditions, including hyperthyroidism, okay, all have this common thread, this one deficiency. They have intolerance with heat, but they are usually always deficient in B1. So it's low thiamine, B1. B1 supports the autonomic nervous system, and it will help in so many different conditions, Karen. If in doubt, take B1, and it probably will solve it. How do you become B1 deficient? Stay tuned for that video this week. You'll see it. All right. Let's jump right to Hatim from High Point, North Carolina.
Okay.
Hello.
Good morning, Dr. Berg.
Good morning.
I have a diabetes for 8 years, and 4 years ago I had central retinal vein occlusion on my left eye.
A what? What was that?
And central retinal vein
Central
occlusion.
retinal occlusion? Central retinal occlusion?
Yeah.
Okay.
On the left
In the
eye.
left eye. Okay, got it.
Yeah, that 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And last month I got on branch rental vein occlusion. My AC1 last month it was 5.6. After I'm in keto now for 8 months. So I'm not sure if that I need any vitamin or like
I got it.
minerals or.
So what happens when you were a diabetic, and even with people that are pre-diabetic, is that you have this high level of glucose that's circulating through your blood vessels, and then it goes to the smaller vessels around the nervous system, in the eye, the kidney, and the toes and the feet. And so it creates all sorts of damage to the nerves, the retina of the eye, and the structures of the eye. The eye is gets hammered with high levels of glucose. So there's something that can greatly reduce the damage from this. First of all, do healthy keto and intermittent fasting like you're doing, and do it correctly. But the other thing is benfotiamine. Benfotiamine is a B vitamin that you can get anywhere. It's fat soluble, that penetrates the coating around the nerve that helps the insulation, called myelin. And I think it's probably one of the best things for a diabetic to lessen the symptoms in the eye, in the kidney, and even in the feet. Benfotiamine. The other one that you should take is alpha-lipoic acid. That's a real powerful thing for peripheral neuropathy and also the vision. Take both of those and then call me in the morning. Thanks for your call. All right.
Question.
Yep.
Your cruciferous product.
Yes.
What effect does it have on the thyroid?
Now, The cruciferous tends to deplete iodine if you take a lot of it. But if you're taking a product like the one I have, which by the way is awesome, I'm not biased because it's freeze-dried, all organic ingredients. A lot of the cruciferous with garlic, turmeric, and sea kelp. Now, why did I put sea kelp in there? To add the iodine, so we would never have a problem ever by taking that product because you're not going to deplete. You'd have to consume a lot of cruciferous over a period of time without taking any other foods that have iodine to create a problem with your thyroid because it could deplete a little bit of iodine. But because I added the sea kelp in there, you don't have to worry about it at all. It's a non-issue, Karen.
Awesome.
Well, by the way, speaking of issues, we do have one quiz question left.
Okay, here you go, guys. This is the last question. When you have air hunger, okay? That means
hunger.
like you're hungry for air, like you have difficulty breathing.
When you
have
go
a hard
like
time
that,
getting.
you go.
Yeah, is that acidosis or alkalosis? Are you too acid or too alkaline? That's the question.
Okay.
And while you're answering that, let's take another question from you.
Yeah. So, let's see, we did Bruce. So Julie wants to know, is black tea good or bad? She likes black tea.
Now, black tea, of course, to organic, it has a lot of good things in it. But I will say it has tannic acid, and you have to realize that a little too much coffee and a little too much tea will deplete you of B1. It'll block B1.
There's that B1 again.
So you may end up with finding you're a little nervous or your energy, you feel like restless, hard to relax, maybe a little edgy.
What do you say?
So nothing, Karen.
What do you mean by that?
Nothing.
What are you trying to say?
Take some B1. So if you're doing green tea or just any tea, black tea, definitely take the nutritional yeast sometime during that day to prevent the edginess that you might experience. Nutritional yeast is a good source. There's some one that we have at Chewables. That's the best source of B vitamins.
Now, so sometimes we have people who are like, wow, I want to buy everything. It's important to take everything, which I don't know is really true, with all the products, the Dr. Berg products. And then we have people who are like, hey, I can't afford everything. From what it sounds like, B1 is right up there with, if you were just to add one supplement to your diet, that B1 would be it. What would you say? Would you say it's the most important?
I think the most important is probably the electrolytes, which has the potassium, magnesium, and trace minerals. Okay. And the other one is like really important is the B vitamins and nutritional yeast. But there's a couple others that also are really important. I take them on a regular basis. And the other one, and I'll just mention this, and then it's the wheatgrass juice powder, because of the source where we got it. Carrie, one of our producers, he actually went with me. We went to Utah in the middle of nowhere, and we kept driving until we got beyond nowhere, 3.5 hours from
nowhere.
Airport. Yeah, and to this 1,000-acre organic farm, and they were growing this organic grass, wheatgrass, and we watched them take it, pulverize it, make juice out of it, and really quickly turn it into powder within like minutes. And so there's no heat. It was just remarkable. So of course, when I saw that, I'm like, okay, here I am. I have the wheatgrass juice powder. I wasn't really taking it consistently. I started taking it consistently, and I'm like, wow, it just really is a great overall antioxidant on steroids product. But you'll feel better. One guy said, my eyeballs feel cleaner when I take that. I'm like, wow, that's an interesting, probably a common benefit that a lot of people want.
You
clean
probably
eyeballs.
don't notice that your eyeballs feel dirty until your eyeballs feel clean.
Well, I think the biggest thing that I notice is I just feel satisfied. Like I feel like, oh, my body really needs that. Like it's really like it likes it. But it does a lot. You can look it up. But let's see what kind of answer we have to the question.
The answers were coming in, it was interesting. I thought we were going to sort of get the landslide, but every other answer acid, alkaline, acid, acid, alkaline,
Okay.
acid, alkaline, acid.
Okay, so specifically,
Repeat the question?
if
Oh.
air hunger, okay, is it acidosis or alkalosis? The most common reason for that is acidosis. However, I will say if your pH goes to alkaline, it will affect your breathing, okay? But it's going to really affect your breathing if you have acidosis because you're just not going to get enough air. You have a lot more CO2 going on. Now, what happens is that how could you have acidosis? It's kind of rare to have a classic acidosis, but if you're doing a lot of apple cider vinegar frequently and you add some kombucha tea like I did that one time, I drank a tremendous amount of kombucha tea and I basically got acidosis because my breathing was affected, my pulse rate went up, so then I just took some calcium. But one way to know if you have acidosis or not is just to take a little calcium, magnesium or citrate, and within minutes you should start breathing better. But if it doesn't go away, there's other reason for other symptoms for air hunger, difficulty breathing, which could be, well, just watch my video on that. I think I actually did one.
So when you say difficulty breathing, could it be like someone's like,
Yeah, anxiety could be
because
anxiety.
people equate that to something else rather than a physical, like an acidosis.
Right.
They immediately think I'm panicking, I'm having this, or the idea that you can't breathe or you're having difficulty breathing causes anxiety immediately.
There's many different causes like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, right? Your COPD, that can cause you having difficulty breathing.
Right.
You could have anxiety where your exhalation is like like that, in case you need to slow down that exhalation. Could
By the
be
way,
asthma.
I might throw in that lots of folks that ended up in the hospital with, quote, COVID breathing problems, they said, they just get into panic. Oh my God, I got COVID. No, wait, I don't think I can breathe. And then suddenly they begin hyperventilating. Next thing you know, they're on a ventilator in the hospital, because of anxiety, perhaps. And I'm not going to talk about the medical reality that they needed, but many of them go in there in a panic state, they hyperventilating, and they go, well, there you go, we've got an issue with their lungs.
Right.
Well, even like you might have like an asthma symptom or an allergy symptom. I'm telling you guys, the best thing for that is vitamin D. Vitamin D will really help drop inflammation in your lungs like that and help you breathe. So vitamin D is a really key thing. But I did a video on breathing, all the different causes of breathing problems. And you can watch that on YouTube.
Yeah, really important. Really important. This is, I don't know if it's just me having this awareness right now or the number of questions that you're asking, but it's very, very important that we remain aware of symptoms that are actual physical symptoms due to something you're eating or an allergy or a lack of a nutrient, and that should be tackled first before we conclude there's some other, even some other disease or some other, mental issue or something, is my opinion here. The first thing that you should do is go, hey, what is it that I could change about my eating or my nutrition that can help with this?
Yes, and I know we'll probably go over a little bit because I want to answer every single question that we have, but I do want to say one thing, a real simple thing that anyone can do as a technique to help yourself. It's so simple. So if you start having malaise, not mayonnaise, or you start having difficulty breathing, just all you do, whatever symptom, is just reflect back on when did it start, okay? Isolate when it started, and what did you eat just before that, or what happened just before that, because it's such a simple thing when you evaluate, and you will always find there's something, oh my gosh, that's right, those Cheetos, I don't normally have that, or oh, I had a banana split. Oh, no wonder, that makes sense now. So it's always something that triggers these symptoms. It's called, date coincidence, okay? Now, I need to go to Scott from Kentucky. Are you there, Scott?
Hi, Dr. Berg. Yes.
Hi. What's your question?
Hi. Well, I wanted to say I started keto since May this year, and I'm down 60 pounds weight loss. I am an active nurse. I work at the hospitals, and I contracted COVID back in August, and then I was asymptomatic pretty much, and unfortunately gave it to my wife, and she spent 2 days in the hospital. But I contributed to my new diet change from following different people on the internet and Facebook, lots of different inputs. So I just been taking pieces of it. Then I came across your videos in a month ago, and you explained things so well that I'm understanding everything a whole lot better. I'm mainly eating eggs, meat, and cheese as my mainstay, and I don't do sugars, and I don't do breads, and I'm still wanting to lose more weight, but I feel awesome. But I wanted to thank you for your insight. One of the questions I had is intermittent fasting. I just started that 2 weeks ago, and I've been doing the OMAD, O-M-A-D, I guess 1 meal a day that I learned, and I only eat eggs, bacon, the sausage, and cheese, and I have bone broth, but I don't get hungry at all for easily 24, 30 hours. I was wanting to see, can I increase my fasting to like 60 hours, 70 hours, or eat when my body feels like it? Because I heard something about autophagy, where your body will eat your dead cells and clean you up more so inside for the longer you fast. I did buy a Mojo ketone blood sugar kit, and it just arrived today, so I'm gonna, I guess, start doing that ratio
Scott,
they talked about.
I'll tell you, you're gonna take it up to next level, because when you start doing periodic, I would do maybe prolonged fasting, maybe every couple weeks or every month. But yes, you start doing 60 hours, you're going to start seeing some serious results, even better than you're experiencing right now, because you get an autophagy and your body starts to get younger. It recycles very efficiently as a survival mechanism, so you're going to notice that a lot of things are going to even be better. But I would also add to your diet, because I listened to what you said, I would add more greens as well. Do a big salad, because I think that's what you're missing also to get your vitamin C and some of the minerals. Thanks for your call and your great success, Scott. Keep it up. And then let's go to Totiana from Cocoa Beach, Florida.
Thank you. Hi, Dr. Birch.
Hi.
Thank you very much for everything that you do for us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Awesome. Of course. So my mom had a thyroid removed 2-3 years ago. A year ago, she started losing her voice, so we think maybe it's glands, but everything was removed, including the glands. Then what's happening, what we find out that 2 months or 3 months ago, she started taking her a thyroid replacement by mistake, by the way. And additionally, she got COVID. She was put into a hospital in October. When she came out in a week, her mental state wasn't there. It was really bad. So we started going to different doctors to do some tests, and I can give you some results. Her D vitamin is 19. Her cortisol is 18. Her TSH is more than 100.
Totina? Sorry to cut you off, but we just needed a quick question. I know that you want to do a whole evaluation, but let me just give you a tip on what your mom could benefit from, because we don't have time to go into all the details, but I think she should be on vitamin D, and B vitamins. Both of those together are vitally important to help her recover, and they're especially good for, I think, getting her back on track. But thanks for your call, and I appreciate you following our videos. Now, James, you are from Michigan. Are you there?
Yes.
Hi.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, I've been trying to get a hold of you for a long time. I do talk to Angela, who's one of your keto consultants.
Oh, great.
Are you there?
Yes.
I have two questions. One is, it seems like our family has had, I guess what you call generational hypoglycemia. My grandmother was 50 and was bedridden the rest of her life because the doctors back in 1950 just gave her candy bars. I developed hypoglycemia severely when I was 20 years old, and I couldn't eat more than any item that was more than 3 grams of carbs. My daughter has a mild case of it, but my question is, I was on a friend of mine came to Kroger's. We're essential workers. I was on the Atkins diet for a long time, but my cholesterol was high. And my friend came from, told me about you, and he was 400 pounds, and he lost 150 pounds. I was 185. It was all belly fat, and on your diet, I went down to 160 within 1 year. But I was doing regular keto. Then I had my cholesterol checked, and it was 222, and my LDL was 132. So I went on vegan keto because my daughter's been a vegan for 5 years, and my cholesterol dropped to 157, and
Hey,
my
James?
LDL
James.
to 77.
Hey, James.
The symptoms.
I hate to cut you off,
but for a
but
while
can you
I
give
could
me
eat anything, and
James, I'm sorry to cut you off, but we really just needed a quick question because it's past 12. And I think I know your question. I'm sorry to cut you off like this, but I think you're saying your blood sugars are still irregular and you're doing keto and you're wondering what to do. So I'm going to just answer that real quick. When you have hypoglycemia for a long period of time, you have insulin resistance for a long period of time. It sounds like that's what you had. And what's going to happen is insulin resistance blocks insulin. So you're going to have lower amounts of insulin. It'll be high, but it won't be working in the body. So if you have low insulin, guess what your body's going to make? It's going to make more sugar, even though you don't eat it. So give it more time. Don't worry about it. It's not it's not going to create a problem if your body's making its own sugar. Exercise more, give it more time, and then your blood sugar will come down as you improve insulin resistance. James, thanks for your
Do you want to make a
wonderful
comment
call.
on no protein or no meat consumption?
No protein,
He's
no
gone
meat.
onto total vegetarian. Is that
No,
gonna
he said
affect-
vegan keto. So he's doing no meat proteins. That's really difficult to do. You can do it, but it's just low carb vegan.
Also, if your daughter is in any developmental years, I would really supplement her.
Yeah, I would definitely want to do that because if you're going vegan, you have to do the B12, the zinc, DHEA, very, very important.
Good.
Anyway, you guys, thank you so much for
Sorry
your questions.
we ran over. There were a lot of great questions. And
Well, let me just put this. This is the only show in the galaxy. The Bergs say we are not going to cut off any callers. Many shows otherwise say, sorry, pal, I know you waited 45 minutes, but the time's up. Try again next week. They don't do it here. So thank you, folks, for your patience and so on. But the Bergs are going to answer every question of a caller that calls in. That's just the way it is.
And if we can't answer them, you can just call our cell phone.
call next time. Oh, yeah, call us on our cell.
All right, have a great one. See you next time.
Bye.